What is going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great morning. My name is Ralli Roots. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about probably my favorite subject right now, which is vintage clothing. I love vintage stuff. I collect it. I'm not by any means an expert in vintage, but I do know a few things and I wanted to share some of those things with you today. So this is going to be, I hope, a pretty cool video. It's going to be a mixture between thrifting. So I'm sitting outside of a Goodwill right now. I'm about to go in there and see if I can find some cool stuff to show you. And then also I think it's like 7 or 8 packages. These are items that I've ordered over the past couple weeks. I haven't opened them yet. They've just been sitting in my office, and most of them are like vintage t-shirts that I've bought from people. So I thought that after thrifting, we can go back to my house and we can kind of talk about the items that I bought. I'll show them to you. It'll be like an unboxing. And then we can also talk about like what makes an item vintage right now. So I know this is a subject that a lot of you guys have been asking about. So I figured I'd make a video about it. Anyway, first things first, let's go hit this Goodwill and see if there's anything cool in there. All right, so it's actually funny. I hardly ever find vintage t-shirts at this particular Goodwill. I wasn't expecting to find that much, but fortunately, the thrift gods blessed me with a few vintage t-shirts. So I think I found like 5 of them, 5 vintage t-shirts for about $3 each. When I get back home, I'll show them to you. I'll show them all to you and explain why they are vintage. But I also wanted to say, for those of you who are resellers, for those of you even who are big in the vintage community, if all you do is focus on vintage t-shirts, for example, you're definitely missing out on stuff, and there's money to be made on other stuff. So keep an open mind for at least like expand into jackets or shoes and stuff like that. Because here's the thing, like I spent $36 total at that Goodwill. One of the things I bought was this pair of shoes. These are Asics Gel Nusa Tri 11 running shoes, and they're worth about $40. So right there, that pays for everything that I bought today, which pretty much makes the t-shirts free. So when you're out thrifting, that's all I'm saying is like keep an open mind to other things besides only vintage t-shirts, because there's stuff out there that can make you some money. And if that's what you're trying to do in this business, it's good to expand your mind into other categories as well. So anyway, it's like 11:30 a.m. right now, and I'm gonna go home and open these packages. I'm really excited about it, but because I found some cool vintage t-shirts at this Goodwill, there's another Goodwill like 10 minutes south of me. I'm gonna go to that one as well and see if some of the vintage t-shirts ended up at that Goodwill. So let's go over there and see if there's any more. Alright, so unfortunately no vintage at that Goodwill, but the trip was at least saved in the form of these Cole Haan wingtip, I believe the model is Luna Grand shoes, $13, so $14 after tax, and we should get around like 40 to 45, maybe $50 for them. So anyway, let's go dig into some really cool vintage now. Alright guys and girls, I'm actually just going to do this from my couch. Don't want to go into the office. I have 10 packages to open, so 10 different things that I bought. I haven't opened any of these yet. I did just like black out the addresses, but I'm gonna open all 10 of these on camera with you. Before I do that, I want to show you the pickups that I got at the thrift store today, and then before I even do that, let's talk about vintage just a bit more. First of all, like what even is vintage? How old does an item have to be considered vintage? My answer to that is at least 20 years old with clothing. I think that that's pretty much the standard in the vintage community. So like right now it's 2019. So for an item to be vintage, it would have to be made in 1999 or earlier. As we cross over into 2020, that means that 2000 is going to be vintage, which is crazy, but that's what's accepted pretty much in the vintage community. That's what I accept with clothing. So 20 years or more is what's considered vintage. All right, some common misconceptions. Just because an item has a tag that is made in the USA doesn't mean that it's vintage. just because an item is single stitch, so single stitch on the sleeves or single stitch on the bottom hem, that doesn't mean that it's vintage. Just because there's a date on an item doesn't mean that it's vintage. Just because the item is thin, the fabric's thin, that doesn't mean that it's vintage. Those are all like good indicators that an item could be vintage. Those are all things that I look for when I'm trying to find vintage stuff. But just because an item has one or multiples of those things doesn't mean that it is necessarily vintage. So for example, like this is a new era Pullover shirt and it's single stitch. So, and obviously screen printed label. So again, just because an item is single stitch doesn't mean that it's vintage. Anyway, let me jump into what I found that is vintage at the thrift store today. So I'll start with this item right here. This is a Tweety Bird t-shirt. I think this is a 2XL. Yeah, Warner Brothers 2XL tag. On a lot of the Warner Brothers tags, the date will actually be underneath it. So on the tag underneath it. So like this one's from 1997. So you've got the Tweety Bird, don't ruffle my feathers on the front. And then you got Tweety shaking a tail feather on the back. Again, this one's a 2XL. It is single stitch on the sleeves and it's single stitch on the bottom hem. So again, those are like 3 easy indicators when you're looking at stuff to kind of get an idea that an item could be vintage. So it's an older tag. It says made in the USA on the tag. There's a date on it and it's single stitch. So all 3 of those things together, it's a good chance that the item's vintage. One other thing to keep in mind, guys, the vintage community, so like people who are really into vintage t-shirts or that's all they sell is vintage stuff, it's a tough community and they're very like, I don't want to say mean, but there's definitely some like old heads who don't want new people coming into the community. And I understand that, like you're protecting your knowledge, which is fine, but I don't see anything wrong personally with like teaching you guys at least a little bit about vintage so you know what to look for a couple reasons. One of them being like when you're listing something for sale, wherever you're listing it for sale, I see stuff listed as vintage that isn't vintage all the time. And I think that by me putting out these videos to a wide audience to kind of teach you guys what is vintage and what is not vintage, I think that actually just helps the community out because now you're not going to have like a reprint shirt being sold as vintage when it's clearly not vintage. The other reason is, in my opinion, people who know vintage and like vintage and sell vintage are also vintage buyers. So like me, for example, obviously I thrift a lot of the stuff that I have, a lot of the vintage stuff that I have, but I also actively buy vintage for myself all the time. Everything in here, everything that I bought recently, these are all things for myself, not even to resell. So a lot of people like just getting into the vintage market, the vintage community, most of those people that are sellers end up being buyers as well. And I personally don't see anything wrong with that. So it's just bringing in more people that are gonna be buying vintage. And I think it's just like boosting the market. So if you disagree with that, that's okay. But this is why I'm making this video, to protect the market, to make sure that things that are vintage are being sold as vintage and things that are not vintage are not being sold as vintage. And then also to bring in more buyers, not just sellers, but also bring in more buyers. Anyway, just wanted to say that. So yeah, I found that Tweety Bird shirt today. These are both pretty cool. I found them at the same time. They're like right behind each other. One of them's on a Fruit of the Loom heavy tag. This one is single stitch and it's the cats on the front there. And then you got the cat butts on the back. So there's that one. And then this one's on a different tag. This is on a Made in the USA Marina's Best tag. Also single stitch. This one's actually much nicer. It's soft. So, but again, cats on the front, cats on the back. I think this one is dated, if I remember correctly. Yeah, this one's dated 1995, Bob Harrison. And both of these t-shirts were $3 a piece. I think the Tweety one was $3 as well. So those 2 cat shirts I picked up. And then I also bought, this is on a classic platinum Made in the USA shirt. It's not single stitch, but it is dated 1990 New Life. So again, that goes back to a shirt doesn't have to be single stitch for it to be vintage. This one has the Made in the USA tag and it has a dated graphic. So, and then the last item I picked up is, this is all about the tag because it's a pullover, right? So the tag and the fading kind of gave this one away to me. On the Disney Made in the USA tag, this one's pretty cool. It's a Disney pullover. And great, perfect timing for the holiday season. You got Mickey on the front, and then it is double-sided Mickey on the back there. So, and this was, how much was this one? $4. That's one cool thing about selling and buying and collecting vintage, is that if you're thrifting it, usually it's pretty cheap. So anyway, that was pretty cool that I went out and I was filming a vintage video and I found some pretty cool vintage items. All right, so with that being said, I'm excited. Let's jump into these packages that I got in the mail. I had to go get some scissors. So where these items came from, I put a post in our Instagram story saying I was looking for vintage all over print t-shirts. I'm all about like the all over graphics right now. So, and like I said, these are for me. So I put a post out on our Instagram and like a bunch of people sent me shirts that they wanted to sell and I bought some of them. So all of these came from me buying off of people who follow us on Instagram. So make sure you go follow us on Instagram because I do this often. And like I said, I've had these packages for a while. I know like a couple of the shirts that should be in here, but I don't know what some of the other ones are. I know I bought them, but I don't remember like what I bought. So it's gonna be a surprise for me too. Straight off the bat, this is like one of the best ones that I bought. Check it out. I think that this is the Voodoo Lounge one. Yeah. Nice. You've got the vintage Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge, big all over graphic. This one's front and back too. Single stitch. This is in great condition too. There's like a little paint or something on the inside collar, but nothing on the outside, so that's pretty sweet. I'm not even like a huge Rolling Stones fan, but I really like this graphic. So that's a good way to start this unboxing. What's next? Looks like we have a Delta made in the USA tag. And this is, it's a giant eagle. Single stitch. What does it say over here? I don't even remember buying this one. It's pretty cool though. Says Bolton landing on Lake George on the sleeve. And again, remember, I was looking for these big all over graphic shirts, so that's what most of these are gonna be. Big eagle on the front, same thing on the back. Nice. And I think that, I'm pretty sure I bought mostly larges and extra larges. Some vintage shirts, I'm a large, like this is a large and it fits me kind of like tight, but I mean, MC Escher, I had to buy it. So sometimes I like to wear a large for a bit of a tighter fit, but vintage, typically I'll wear XL just for a bit of a baggier fit. And again, some of these are gonna be rare. Some of them aren't gonna be rare. They're just gonna be graphics that I liked, but all of them should be vintage. Actually, this one is a gift. I guess I didn't buy this one. This is a gift from Tronic Vando from Dano. It says, thank you, Ralli Roots. Keep crushing content. You guys rock. Thanks. It's like a new school Dragon Ball Z shirt. Oh, that's cool though. That's a really cool new school all over print graphic. Yeah, nice. It's rare that I like all over prints that are new school, but this one's pretty sick. I like that. It's a Dragon Ball Super shirt. Sweet, thank you. Next shirt up. This one has a note with it. It says, Ralli Roots, we were in shock when you wanted to buy a shirt from us. We started thrift flipping only a month ago. Sweet, we have learned basically everything from your videos. Keep pumping them out because they are so helpful. Enjoy the shirt. Just picked it up at an estate sale the other day. Maybe we'll see it on a video soon. You will see it on a video soon. Thanks for all you do for the reselling community. Prince Family Thrift. Sweet. All right. Oh, this one's cool. I actually remember them posting this one, and it was cool because it's my favorite tag. It's a Screen Stars Best tag, which is a lot of people's favorite tags, but I just like the way that Screen Stars Best fit me. This is an extra large, and check this graphic out. This thing is so cool. I actually didn't realize, but it's like embossed lettering, which is super cool. This is from 1987, so this is an 80s shirt, which is super cool. I love it. Thank you. Oh, I'm excited about this one. I've actually wanted to buy this shirt for a while now, and I never was able to find it for like a good deal, but I got a good deal on it, so. This one's crazy. Check it out. Boom. The massive all over print sun on the front, but this is what makes this t-shirt crazy. The back is like a completely different shirt. Got the big moon graphic on the back. Actually, looking at this shirt a bit closer, this is a reprint. This is a liquid blue. You can see the screen print there. This is a liquid blue reprint. I thought I was buying the vintage version of this shirt, so I'm gonna have to reach out to the seller because, I mean, it's a cool shirt, but I paid up a bit for it, so. All right, I am excited about these ones. This is from a guy that we met out in Little Rock, Arkansas. His Instagram handle is PD Pics, and both of these shirts should be super cool. So we'll look at this one first. There's an actual older liquid blue tag. That's what it should look like. That's what this one should look like. Anyway, yeah, this one's sick. Super cool, big all over graphic. I think that this came out of his personal collection, and I was like, yep, that's mine. I want that. I love it. I think it's cool. Thanks, man. And then this one, he sent it to me, and I was like, whoa, I've actually never even seen that graphic before. And I like this shirt because it's not like the typical, I'll let you know, it's Grateful Dead, but it's not like that typical Grateful Dead shirts that I have that are crazy graphics and stuff. It's kind of more subtle and more of like a concert tour shirt. And this one is on a Fruit of the Loom, made in the USA tag. This is so sick. That's the back. This is so sick. The summer tour on the back. And then the front is just as cool. Check this out. And he said it fits kind of long, which, yeah, it's gonna fit. It's gonna fit super long, but I don't mind. This one's from 1993. So again, things to keep in mind: that vintage made in the USA tag, single stitch on the sleeves, and then it's dated 1993. So that's kind of like the trifecta of knowing that an item is vintage. And a dead giveaway to an item not being vintage is the screen printed tag, not an actual tag. This is pretty cool. Got the big moon astronaut landing. Pretty sweet. It's from the first manned lunar landing, Apollo 11. Space themed stuff's always really cool. So, and I like tie-dye shirts too, so I like the colors on this one. The detail is pretty sweet too. You can actually see like the lunar lander in the helmet. It's pretty sweet. Oh, here we go. I actually forgot about this one until just now. I've been wanting this shirt for a while, and it finally popped up for a good deal. So this will be my new favorite Lion King shirt. Super, super cool all over prints onto the sleeves Lion King shirt. It's even on the old Lion King Disney tag. This one is gonna be worn very soon by me. I love this shirt. All right, last but not least, what is this? Oh, this one, that's right. It's an old Coca-Cola shirt. Boom, the old polar bear on the Coca-Cola shirt, 1994. Big polar bear, and then Coke on the back. Very cool. And that's gonna be it for today's unboxing. Hopefully you guys like this. Hopefully you enjoyed, maybe you learned something about vintage that you didn't know. If you didn't, then that's cool too. But thank you guys for watching, appreciate it. Please hit the thumbs up button on this video. Maybe leave a comment and let me know, like, of all the shirts, even the ones I thrifted today, of all the vintage shirts that I unboxed and thrifted today, which one was your favorite? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you guys. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Ralli Roots, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, guys. Bye.